Welcome in to Blazers Gameday. Chris Burkhardt here with you on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. We're going to get you ready for some Trailblazers action as they wrap up their road trip in New Orleans today against the Pelicans. Tip off in about 2 hours. Blazers looking to get back in the win column. It has absolutely been a minute. They have had a rough go on this road trip. I think we're all well aware of that. Nothing worse than what happened in Memphis on Sunday afternoon when the Blazers had a chance, but then they didn't have a chance. What I mean by that was at one point the game was tied 0-0. And at that point, you're like, you know what? Look at that. We're playing pretty well. Yeah. And then the whistle blew and the game tipped off, and the Memphis Grizzlies ran away with it. 119-96, the final score in Memphis. The Grizzlies got out to a big lead in the first quarter, 40-20. And at that point, the Blazers were in catch-up mode, and they just couldn't do it, no matter how hard you tried. They couldn't stop them now, as Rage Against the Machine once said. It was rough. Absolutely rough. One of those nights, too, when you sit there and you look at the situation that we've talked about many, many times with the injuries and whatnot, how it's hard to get through any stretch of games when so many people are hurt. And in this situation, that was no different. The Blazers were starting Young Hansen. We're talking about a guy who just a few days prior was down in the G League. And now here he is getting a start because there was no Donovan Clingan. There was no Robert Williams. The injury bug, it was biting hard. There was an infestation, and the Blazers tried their best to deal with it. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like that injury bug infestation has gotten any better. It's still biting as the Blazers still have plenty of injuries that they're dealing with tonight as they go to New Orleans. The last update, and of course, we will give you an update if we get one during the show here. But as of yesterday, the injury report lists Donovan Clingan, Scoot Henderson, Drew Holiday, Damian Lillard, Matisse Thybulle, and Blake Wesley as out. Robert Williams and Young Hansen both questionable. Robert Williams still recovering from a sickness. Young Hansen with a face contusion after getting clocked in the face by Zach Edey, and the refs not making a call because apparently they felt that, they didn't need to. That was just a basketball play. All he did was, mistook his face for a basketball. It happens all the time. Don't you watch the NBA? Apparently that's what the refs thought. And we'll see if Young Hansen can play tonight. But that game, as we talked about in Memphis, was pretty rough. Blazers tried to make the comeback, but it was just too much. It was 66-46 at the half. The Blazers went on a nice run in the third quarter. And it was one of those ones, as I'm writing my notes, it was a 10-1 run. Then it was a 13-1 run. Then it was a 16-1 run. I think the final run was 21-3, and the Blazers had the game in striking distance. It was just a few possession game. But then the fourth quarter happened, and once again, they just couldn't figure it out. They couldn't get it done in that fourth quarter. They were outscored 27-18, just enough for the Grizzlies to hold on and grab that big win. And again, it was just one of those nights where you would have hoped they would have figured it out. You would have hoped they would have been able to put it together because you were looking at a Grizzlies team that is not very good. They are struggling throughout the year as well when it comes to winning and losing their ball games. As we talked about in the pregame show, talent-wise, I feel like the teams are kind of similar. And the difference being is that Memphis is consistent. They're going to kind of play the same game no matter what. When they play the top-end teams in the NBA, they tend to lose. When they play the bottom end of the NBA, they tend to win. And then you have those toss-up games in the middle because that's right where they are. And the Blazers are a middle team too, but they are inconsistent because we have seen them do the opposite of what Memphis does. We have seen them beat the Nuggets, the Warriors, and the Thunder. And then we have seen them lose to the Lakers without their three best players. We have seen them lose to the Mavericks, who are one of the worst teams in the NBA. So the Blazers can be up and down. A big difference in this one, and that does happen when you are just so hurt and you are messing with your starting lineup and you don't have your full complement. The Grizzlies bench outscored the Blazers 69-35, and that was a massive reason that they were able to get out to this big lead early. Also, they outscored the Blazers in the paint 52-34, and the Blazers do a pretty good job of getting in the paint and getting buckets. So to be outscored like that, part of that's because you don't have Robert Williams, you don't have Donovan Clingan, so you lost your paint presence defensively. And that is rough. That is rough. This is Blazers Game Day. I'm your host, Chris Burkhardt. If you want to join the conversation, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. You can also text us at the new Rip City Radio text line. Just text 88528. Standard text messaging rates apply. And, of course, you can go to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio, and join the chat there as well, where friend of the show, Timmy, he says, Smoothie King Center might be one of the nicest arenas in the league. Oh, he's absolutely right. It's beautiful. I got nothing. He says that in jest because he tries to throw me off my game. It is, without a doubt, one of the worst arenas in the NBA. It is bad. It's lifeless. It's uncomfortable. It is not a good arena. It's not a good arena. That's all I got to say about that. New Orleans, though, is awesome. The city is great. The food is unmatched. So one of the things I missed the most about when I got to travel around with the team was getting to go to cities like New Orleans and just have some just awesome Creole and alligator gumbo, like just a good Creole shrimp. Oh boy. Cafe de Monde. I don't care if it's a touristy spot. Give me them beignets, baby. You want good food, New Orleans is the spot. Highly recommend that. And you know what? Go to Smoothie King Arena too. Knock it off the list. But it is definitely one of the worst in the NBA. We've had these conversations before about a lot of these old arenas. They're doing their best to spruce up a little bit. And Moda Center's getting to the point where it's getting closer to the bottom end. And they're putting their work in now to bump it up a little bit. So we'll see how that one goes over the next few years. But I love the Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. I'm just calling it the Fieldhouse because it's changed its name so many times. Game Bridge, Bankers Life, all that. That's my favorite. But you look at some of the new ones, air quotes new, that they built over the last decade. Barclays Center is great. Pfizer Forum in Milwaukee is great. Golden One Center, I think, is phenomenal. The Chase Center in Golden State is very nice. Granted, the time I was there, the paint was still drying on the wall because that's how brand new it was. We go through the media entrance and we go down and like there's still ladders and people painting and wet paint signs everywhere. Like the bowl was ready and the concourse is ready. The underbelly was not. Madison Square Garden, because I just saw it up there. That's a dump, but the nostalgia pop you get outweighs it. I love MSG. I would watch a game there any day of the week, even with its hiccups. But yeah, you start going down the list. Oh, okay, that one has its problem, but it's all right. No, Smoothie King, yeah, it's down there without a doubt. It's a bad arena. But the food in New Orleans definitely makes up for it. And hopefully a Blazers victory can make up for any vibes around the arena tonight. And the Blazers need a victory in the absolute worst way. Well, we talked about it a little bit already, but this road trip just has not been good for Portland. They have been playing, back to like we said about Memphis, they've been playing wildly inconsistent basketball. And quite frankly, their inability to play a full 48 minutes at times has really hurt their chances of winning ball games. This trip so far, they lost to the Raptors in a game that I think if they focused the entire time, they probably could have won. They go the very next night, they watch film in the hotel, they get their bearings right, and they beat the Cavs 122-110. That's a good Cav team. They go to Detroit, have their ups and downs, lose to a Pistons team who we've talked about as the best team in the Eastern Conference, but has also had a pretty weak schedule, so the Blazers matched up with them well, and there was an upset there. Kind of lost their chance to get it. And then that Memphis game was one that probably stings the most. Even though you look at the losses before that, home against the Spurs, home against the Thunder, none of that stings as much as the Grizzlies because that was a game that, A, is going to matter in the standings as you two battle for play in position, and B, was a game, quite frankly, you should have kept closer than 119-96. That hurts, and that hurts a lot. So now you go and you play the Pelicans, a team that has struggled, and that is putting it lightly this season. They are just bad with a capital B. They can't stay healthy. You never know if you're going to have Zion available or not. Obviously moved on from Brandon Ingram. He's in Toronto. They're trying to figure it out. But they come into this game 3-22, losers of 7 in a row, 1-9 in their last 10. So you would feel pretty good about that going up against them. You have 9 wins. You are 9-15, so you're nothing to write home about either. But those 9 wins are 3 times as many as New Orleans has. But the Blazers also have lost 2 in a row and are just 3-7 in their last 10. The 3 worst records over the last 10 games are the New Orleans Pelicans. This is in the Western Conference. Are the New Orleans Pelicans, who have been 1-9, the Clippers, who are 2-8 in their last 10, and then the Kings, the Jazz, and the Blazers are all 3-7 in their last 10. Not a good place to be, but still, you would hope that against the New Orleans team that has struggled mightily, you can go in and get a victory. Now, you go back to the game that you played in Smoothie King Arena a few weeks ago, and Blazers go in and they get the victory, but it looked like a struggle. 125-117 was the final score in that game. Blazers got out to the early 30-25 lead in the first quarter, and then there was some bouncing back and forth through there in a game that Blazers felt like they kind of had in control, but also felt like it could just go off the rails at any point and the Blazers could lose control. A day that Sadiq Bey absolutely went off and had 25 points. A game that Derek Queen had 26 points off the bench, and a team that struggles offensively suddenly found their mojo offensively against the Blazers. So it's not as if you go in and just because they're a bad team, you chalk it up, it's a dub, we're good to go. No, you're going to have to work again because they made you work last time you were in their house. So come in, focus, play all 48, and see what happens. Just be ready and understand that this is the NBA. You can't walk through anything. And the Blazers, I think, a little bit more often than not lately have walked through, not entire games, but moments. And it goes back to what Tiago Splitter said after that game in Toronto. You got to treat every possession like it's gold. Be locked in 48 minutes, start to finish. Like Donovan Clingan added, you can't wait until halftime to wake up. You got to wake up now. Absolutely. Absolutely. Augie Dog in the chat says, let's go Blazers. That's right. Let's go Blazers. Hopefully Portland can figure it out tonight. End this little road trip with a victory, even though it feels like a weird road trip because there's this big gap. So the Blazers played in Memphis on Sunday. They had a 3-day gap. Well, instead of just staying out on the road and, bonding or whatnot, they came back home because Tuesday's practice availability was in Tualatin at the practice facility. So they flew all the way back, got some practice in, slept on their own beds, and then are heading back out to New Orleans. Even though it's game 5 of the road trip, they're heading out to New Orleans on what is essentially just a quick 1-game trip and then coming back. A little weird scheduling quirk that we can talk about later. All right, this is Blazers Game Day. I'm your host, Chris Burkhardt. You can follow me on social at Chris J. Burkhardt. And if you want to join the conversation on the interwebs with us or on the phone, there's multiple ways to do that. 503-248-0620 is one way. You can also hit us up on the brand new Rip City Radio text line. Just text 88528. And, of course, you can go to YouTube.com and type in Rip City Radio and join the chat there. We did got a comment on the text line that says, are you pleased with Splitter? Do you think Portland will trade anybody before the deadline? Very good question. And I'm going to noodle on that and give you an answer when we come back after the break. That's right. In the biz, we call it a tease. Chris Burkhardt here with you. Blazers Game Day continues after the break here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhardt here with you. If you want to join the conversation, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. You can also hit us up with a brand new text line. 88528 is that number. And of course, head on over to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio, and join the chat there as well. And I want to go to one of those text messages for a second. We had a commenter come in. Are you pleased with Splitter? Do you think Portland will trade anybody before the deadline? And it's a good question. It's a good question. I also think this is the same texter who said, CB is good and all, but there's no replacing Chad when I filled in for him. And to that, you're right. Chad is the GOAT, man. Chad's awesome. And big shout out to him for letting me put this mic in front of my face. It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to do. I'm just giving you, razzing you a little bit because you're not wrong. Chad is awesome. Anytime I have to fill in for him, I'm like, oh, great. These are big shoes to fill. Big shoes to fill. Big shoes to fill. I told you guys I would always get a Simpsons reference in whenever I can. That's for the real ones. Now back to the question. Let's start with Coach first. Do I like Splitter, or am I pleased with Splitter? Yes, I am. I like Coach Splitter a lot. If I've said this before, so I know you know that I'm not messing with you here. I liked the hire when he was brought on as an assistant coach, and I told everyone at the time that I thought that was Coach Billups' best hire in his time here. I love Thiago Splitter. I think his basketball brain is great. I think he knows how to speak to those guys. You're starting to see him start to put his print on this team. And I think that's great. And he's going to learn. He is learning too. And let's get that straight. He is learning too. The difference between him learning and Coach Billups learning as a first-time head coach is that one of those guys was hired to be the head coach out of the gate. The other was not. The other circumstances were put at his doorstep, and he was thrust into that position. Thiago Splitter was brought on like, hey, you're going to work on big men. You're going to help with the offense. And now you're working with everybody because you're controlling everything. That's a big jump. So he's learning a little bit as well. But I love the passion he brings. I like his emotion on the floor. I like the way he talks to players. You see him getting in players' ears all the time. I think he's a smart guy. We'll hear from him a little bit later in the show. I do. I'm pleased with Splitter. The biggest question is what happens in the long run. Once we figure out what's going on with Coach Billups, and obviously new ownership comes in, do they want to continue with Splitter or what have you, or do they want to do an extensive coaching search because they just took over and they're cleaning house? Like there's still so many unanswereds in that realm. But right now, I'll tell you this: I love Thiago Splitter, and if it's in Portland or elsewhere, I do think that he has a very bright future as a head coach in the NBA. And I've told you guys this before. Back in my old job at NBC, I was always in the visiting locker room to get footage for the post-game show. And I was never more impressed than when I was in a Spurs locker room. I mean, I could listen to Manu Ginobili talk about basketball all day long. There was times where we interviewed him, and I would have swore that he was in a Blazers practice because he knew so much about what the Blazers were doing. Guy watched film, paid attention, took notes. And that was how that entire organization was. And Thiago Splitter comes from that. Obviously, you played for and learned a little bit from Coach Popovich. Now, you learn a lot from your coach playing, but if you ever have aspirations to become a coach, maybe you watch that coach just a little bit different, or you think back about that time a little bit different. I still think Splitter is going to be great. I think he's going to be great. And I hope he continues to grow here and we get to see some of that here in Portland. Now, to the next part of your question, do you think the Blazers will trade anybody before the deadline? That is the $1,000,000 question because I've had so many people ask me that. What I think is crazy is that we know what they need. It's just a matter of can they go out and get it. They need shooting. They need players who can shoot that basketball consistently. They don't need a guy to go out there and score you 25 points a night. They just need a guy who they can sit in the corner or sit above the arc, and every time he gets the ball in his hand, you know he's going to shoot it, you know he's going to make it. That's what they need. Now, Jeremy Grant is a guy who's been talked about as a big trade piece. I don't know if that's the guy you trade because he's like the only guy on this this team that can shoot right now. He's the only guy that can shoot, so you got to keep him. I think you work around the edges a little bit. No one likes to hear that. No one likes working around the edges. But can you trade a Ryan Rupert, Chris Murray, Caleb Loves, those type of players to bring in a guy who's not making a lot of money because you're not trading out a lot of money, whose only job is to shoot the basketball. I don't know who that player is, but that's what they need. You look at the Drew Holiday value. I still think there's mad value in him moving forward. And I still think this team eyes are on next year when they have Damian Lillard and see where he fits in. Is he your starting guard? Is he coming off the bench because he's not what he used to be? Either way, you get a guy who has gravity and is still going to be a good shooter until the day he retires. There's a lot there. There is a lot there. So, yeah, I think it's a great question. And I wish I had a better answer for you because I think it has to be the right move. You don't just make a move to make a move. And I understand this team and fans want shooting and they want these things that will make them better, but you're not going to contend for a true playoff spot this year. Next year is the year that I think you're really, really focused on. So if you can get that guy that helps you beyond, it's not just a this year move, then maybe you make the big swing. Until then, maybe work around the edges. Keith, in the YouTube chat, where has KC been? I just think Calabro was under the weather, so they moved everybody around. Travis jumped in, did some TV for a day. Gareth, the play-by-play guy for the Rip City Remix, did that first game remotely, which kudos to him. Doing a game remotely is absolutely tough. Obviously, short notice, didn't have time to fly him or anyone else out on the road, so they had to bring him into Studio C, and he watched the game on the monitor and called the game there. Incredibly tough to do. Thought he did well. And then they moved everything back, had another fill-in last week or on Sunday. So I don't know what tonight is. I think he'll be fine. He'll be back. Every once in a while, KC he's the GOAT. He's a legend. So sometimes he might be under the weather. He just gets to take a break. Either way, we miss him. He's one of the best to ever do it. Don't let that get lost on you. The Dirt Mock Prince, yes. Grayson Allen is dirty. Took a big shot at Chet last night. I wonder if Chet will be fired up. Dude, that Grayson Allen, man, like the guy is annoying because he's a good basketball player. Like he's a good rotation basketball player in this NBA. He can help a lot of teams, but his reputation as a dirty player comes honestly. It's everywhere he's gone. He did it at Duke. He's done it in his NBA career, tripping people, taking swings. He hits Chet with that flagrant. I think it was Jalen Williams who got fired up. It's like, yeah, I'm going to back up my guys, but, no one really fights in the NBA, so I knew we weren't going to come to blows, but, this is kind of what he's done his entire career. That stuff needs to be reprimanded more. Like, I get hard fouls, and I get, the intentional fouls or this and that, but and a flagrant foul can happen now and then, and a flagrant foul doesn't have to be intentionally dirty, but Grayson Allen does a lot that is intentionally dirty, and I think it's just absolutely ridiculous, especially when you're as talented as he is, because his play can speak for itself. But you get this highlight reel of dirty plays that do the speaking for him anymore, and it's annoying. It's like Ja Morant we talked about last week, like what he does off the court and the antics, getting off the court and coming up to Denny Avdia when he's in street clothes. Like, dude, like that's what people are going to talk about when you are an all-world talent. Just get on the court and let your game play. Do that and you'll be awesome. It'll be absolutely awesome. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on Blazers Game Day. When we come back, we're going to head to the Coach's Corner. We're going to hear from Tiago Splitter. He is available at practice on Tuesday, and then we're going to continue to get you ready for Blazers Pelicans tip-off in about an hour and a half right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Blazers Gameday. Chris Burkhardt here with you. If you'd like to join the conversation with us, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. You can also hit us up on the text line, 88528, or youtube.com. Type in Rip City Radio and join the chat there, where Sean asks, is the Time Lord warming up? I don't know, Sean. Unfortunately, I don't have eyes inside the arena today. But last we checked, he was listed as questionable. Hopefully he does get to play. Donovan Clingan's still listed as out. So you got Time Lord and Young Hansen. If you lose one of those guys, Young Hansen also listed as questionable with a face contusion. Does hurt your center lineup just a little bit, but we will see what happens here if we get an updated injury report before the show is over. Usually they've been coming out about an hour before tip, so right after we close. But if we get one during the show, I'll definitely let you know. All right. How's the team doing? How's the health updates have we talked about? What do they need to do to get a win? Coach Thiago Splitter talked about it at practice this week. It is time for the Coach's Corner.
How do you come away from that road trip? Kind of what was your takeaway from those 4 games?
My takeaway, so I think we compete for 3 games the way I like it. The last one was hard, having DC and Rob out. I think we were down 20. Not the way we won. We came back on the third, have a chance to get back to the game, but it was just too much effort. The team couldn't do it. Short-handed. Injuries is a big thing right now. We got to get guys healthy. We got to, bring get our mojo together and be able to compete for 48 minutes. And that's what I'm waiting for, to get the guys back and, develop the young guys, of course, get minutes for them and put guys in different positions. Danny is stepping up so big and playing point guard for us, learning how to play with the ball for the most part, and trying to take the positive out of this.
Scoot, is Scoot getting any closer at all, or what's he at?
Well, he's again doing some drills, not of the team though, everything individually, but kind of like the Drew situation where you got to be careful.
How would you kind of describe where the team is at from a mental standpoint right now?
You guys are good. The energy is good. They all understand what's going on, but energy is good. We had a good practice today. It's hard to have, like, in the middle of the season, a full practice taped, going 5-on-5. We had finally one of those, and the guys had good energy, good approach. We got better today.
We kind of were joking the last time you were here about how you had your first practice, and now I look at the next couple of weeks and you have a lot of opportunities to do that. What are you most focusing on and looking forward to, I guess, about that opportunity the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, to get a little bit more organized offensively. Defensively, we are trying different things, different matchups. We call radical defense, when we go 2 against 1 and we blitz and we put bigs on a wing and try to protect the rim, even our zone and get back to man. So all those little changes, get better at that defensively. And then at the same time, you have a time kind of like to get guys healthy. Like, you don't have the stress of a game on a player so they have some time off and to do their rehab and get stronger in the weight room, those things to face then the rest of the season and stay healthy.
How would you say Caleb and CeeDee's games have grown during this stretch where they've been relied on so heavily?
Yeah, CeeDee, we ask him a lot. He's starting games for us. He's guarding people. He's guarding bigs. He's guarding smalls all over the place, rebounding for us, pushing the ball. I think he's growing. I think he in a different space that when he started the season. Caleb, same thing. We were thinking for him to go between us and the G League and get experience with that, and he's just playing important minutes, playing important games, important shots. Of course, he's being up and down, and it's part of it. As a rookie, So he got to understand that we need him more regularly and be there every night. So that's part of the process of, growing your game in the NBA.
Were you as confident? Were you as confident as Caleb your rookie season?
Oh, he's confident. I'm confident on him. I think he thinks he's going to make every shot, and that's a great part of him. Now he got to play better on defense. He got to know our stuff better. He got to move off the ball better. There's a lot of things to improve, but just to be more regular and especially on defense.
Sounds like a focus is communication with this team, based upon what Tumani said. Is that something you bring up, or is that something they're bringing up, or?
I mean, everyone. We know that we got to talk on defense, and again, there's different players every time on the court. Guys that didn't expect to play now, they got to speak up. They got to, really ask their teammates to be on the spots and let them know that a screen is coming, or what type of defense we are. We are between zone and man. We got to speak up. All those little adjustments on the court sometimes got to be made by them. I cannot dictate everything that's going on from the bench. It's too far. So they got to do those little talks in the court. That's why we asking, right? Like you guys got to speak more. You guys got to demand from your teammates in a good way to get better. Those type of talks in the game are important, and we are trying to get better at that.
And so do you bring that up here?
Yes.
Like, so that's something you're constantly talking about?
Oh, yes. Yeah. That's a huddle and a timeout. That's a pregame film. That's a post-game film, something that we talk a lot, and how to communicate better on the court.
And there you hear from head coach Tiago Splitter, and a little bit of a long interview, but I liked it. I liked everything he said in there, especially towards the end, talking about the importance of communication. It's a timeout and a quick talk, and you got to get guys talking more to each other on the court, because obviously you can only do so much from the bench, and that's a part of that growing experience with him, his coaching philosophy, the way he approaches it, and trusting those guys on the floor that they're going to be in the right spot at the right time, make the right move. So I liked hearing that from him. Also love that clip about Caleb Love. That's the second time in like about a week or so where he's talked about how he thinks he can make every single shot and is confident. And I love that. I get that he doesn't shoot the ball extremely well right now, and he's had good games and some really bad games, but you have players that have come through Portland, or you've seen elsewhere, you watch around the NBA, who don't like to shoot the ball, who are afraid to let it fly because they don't trust their shot. Caleb Love is not one of them. He trusts his shot, and he lets that ball fly, and he can be fun. He can be a spark plug, and I like the fact that coach has some confidence in him, because young guys need that. They need their coach to believe them. All right, this is Blazers Gameday. I'm your host, Chris Burkhardt. You can follow me on social at Chris J. Burkhardt. Also follow the radio station at Rip City Radio 620 for all the latest news and updates. And if you want to join the conversation, hit us up on the text line, 88528. Standard text messaging rates apply. And, of course, you can go to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio, and join the chat there as well. We're going to take a quick break on Game Day. When we come back, we're going to hit you with our keys to the game. What do the Blazers need to do to get a victory over the New Orleans Pelicans? We'll let you know when we return on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhardt here with you. Time now for our keys to the game. And unfortunately, my keys to the game did take a little bit of a hit because during that commercial break, we got some updated news from the injury front, and that is that Robert Williams and Young Hansen have been downgraded to out for tonight's game in New Orleans. So Klingon, Young Hansen, Robert Williams, your 1-2-3 center. Boom, boom, boom. Dwap Reith is the only guy you have who even plays that position, and he's not a traditional center. So big hit there. No point guards, no centers. The Blazers, what are we doing? Like, who are you going to start? Who are you going to play? It is going to be an absolute test for our head coach, Tiago Splitter, tonight. Now, looking at some things, though, that we can talk about with the keys to the game. And big shout out to super producer Brendan Slaughter for pointing this out. And that is, last time these two played, it was a center in Derek Queen who absolutely torched the Blazers. He led the Pelicans with 26 points. He has 7 rebounds. He is 12 of 18 from the floor, just going to work on the inside. And with no Donovan Klingon, no Robert Williams, no Young Hansen, no true shot blocker, it means guys like that are going to be able to get off again. So the Blazers are going to have to do their absolute best to contain a player like him, and they're also going to have to do their absolute best on the glass. Again, no Donovan Klingon absolutely hurts you in the rebound department. Defensively, no Robert Williams to help you there either. You're going to take a massive hit. So you got to find a way to bottle up Derek Queen. Now you look at defensively what the Pelicans bring. Pelicans are dead last in the NBA in block shots. They only block 3.4 per game. And something I said about the last few games for the Blazers was I wanted to see them attack the rim. They are playing against teams who are good at blocking shots, but I figured if you attack the rim, you're going to get your shot blocked, but you're also going to get them into foul trouble. Well, keep doing that tonight because, A, they're not going to block a lot of shots. Like I said, dead last in the league at 3.4 blocks per game. But you match that to the fact that the Blazers come into this game number 3 in the league, trailing only Orlando and Detroit. In free throw attempts per game, 28.5, and they don't trail by much. Orlando leads the league at 29.2. That means the Blazers can live at the line in a game like tonight, and that's going to be smart because if you look at last time when they played and the Pelicans were able to have their way down low, and that was a game that Donovan Klingon and Robert Williams were both available. And if Derek Queen is able to get going down low and the Pelicans can get into a rhythm, a quick way to stop that rhythm is to get to the free throw line, force those stoppages in place where you get to, get those points at the line and not do too much exertion of energy, right? And again, you put a little bit of a stop to the game, but you get points in doing so. So I think that's a key to the game here is to make sure the Pelicans don't get into a rhythm. Don't get into a rhythm. Win the game at the line. Attack the rim. Make sure you score more than them. Either way, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough with no one available in that lineup. That means your healthy bodies today are basically no one. Remember, going into this game, Donovan Klingon, Scoot Henderson, Drew Holiday, Damian Lillard, Matisse Thybulle, Blake Wesley, all already out. And now you get to add Robert Williams and Young Hansen to that mix. That is 8 players. 8 players on your team not available. What do you do with that? You got to also understand the long-term ramifications here. You don't just lean on Denny to go play 48 minutes tonight. I don't think you run anybody into the ground. But that means tonight you're going with Javonte Cook. You have Ryan Rupert, Dwap Reith, Caleb Love, Chris Murray, Shaden Sharp, Sidi Sissoko, Denny Avdia, Jeremy Grant, Tumani Kamara. Half of your available players are G League guys and two-way players. That's Sidi Sissoko, Caleb Love, Javonte Cook available tonight. Those are 3 two-way guys. That's Ryan Rupert, who was just assigned and played some minutes down with the Rift City Remix. Had a good game, but we're talking about a G Leaguer again. It's going to be rough tonight. So you also got to weigh those options. What's more important, getting the win or staying healthy moving forward too? The last thing you want to do if you're head coach Tiago Splitter is run Denny and Tumani and Jeremy Grant into the ground. Play those other guys those minutes make them good rotation players. If you end up losing the lead, take a hit, it is what it is. Staying healthy and returning home, ready to go, probably more important than the win at the end of the night. But also, it's the Pelicans, so hopefully even injury depleted, you can beat a team that only has 3 wins. All right, the music means it's time to go. For me, not for you. Keep it locked in here, because coming up next, across the Trailblazers audio network, Chad Doing will have your Trailblazers pregame show. And then after that, 5 o'clock tip-off, it's Blazers versus Pelicans right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio, 620. And when it's all said and done, keep it locked in, because it's the 5th quarter where hopefully me, my buddy Brendan, and all of Rip City are breaking down a Trailblazers victory. Rip City, I'll talk to you after the game.